Hey everyone, can you hear me? Is the mic good? How's it going, Zach? Akil? Subahashini, are you back? Hello, Shri Charan. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but please let me know. Zach, you were testing concurrency features? How did that go? You downloaded Xcode Beta? Guys, today I have a second monitor, so I set up a second screen. So now hopefully I'll be able to keep an eye on the chat while also doing whatever we're doing on the screen. How's everyone doing? All right, cool. So yesterday, if you were here, we were going through the platform state of the union. Just for anyone that is, wait, before I just speak for 30 minutes with no one can hear me, let me check the audio. Can you guys hear me? Is my mic loud enough? Is the background music soft enough? And you guys can see me, right? Everything's good? Is my chat not updating? Oh, okay, great. Cool. Yeah, my chat is really not updating in real time. Give me a sec. All right, great. And this time, the chat. Hey, Mark, good to see you. So this time the chat stream should actually stay on the screen under my thumbnail in the upper right corner, because yesterday I think when I had set it up, the chat messages just disappeared as soon as they appeared after a couple of seconds. So hopefully we get a stream of chat messages now. Give me a hi, give me a yes, give me you're excited if if you're excited to see this. Just a small recap for everyone yesterday that wasn't here. The platform State of the Union is basically Apple's dev-oriented broadcast to talk about all of the WWDC new features and how it applies to developers and how developers can take advantage of the things that are coming down the pipe. And all of this, applies to the Xcode betas and the macOS betas and stuff like that. So you will have to download some beta software if you want to test some of these out, like Zach did in the chat. So yesterday we went through a couple of big announcements. I'm not going to go through all of these in depth again, but just at a high level, we went through Xcode Cloud, which is Apple's new way of helping us take more of the development process into Xcode, so we don't need to leave Xcode to do a variety of different things, and it applies more to working in teams with more than one person. But even if you're working with one person, there's some pretty handy features like building in the cloud and being able to run your test cases simultaneously on multiple devices, screens, and even beta OSs, so that's really cool. We talked a little bit about Swift concurrency, and we did an Xcode demo about what that currently looks like. And by the way, I'm mentioning this so that in case you want to go and check out the stream replay for that, it is available on the channel, so you can check that out. Excuse me. We talked about the Swift UI, a couple of new components that they actually really useful components. There's a new table component. There were a lot of new modifiers that made it really easy to work with lists and add special features to lists. And this is where we ended off on Swift Playgrounds. So let me just bring up that section. And again, I'm not going to play the audio so that I can talk over it. But number two, I don't want to potentially have any sort of copyright strikes. So right now on iPad, you can already get this app called Swift Playgrounds if you weren't aware of it. And it's actually a great interactive way for people to learn Swift and to learn how to code. But the current version of Swift Playgrounds, you can't really build apps on it. So we actually get a lot of people coming to our channel and our forum and messaging us saying that they only have an iPad. Can they build iOS apps on it. And we have to say, no, unfortunately, you need Xcode and it's only available on Mac machines. And, you know, a Mac is not cheap. So a lot of the time, that is a barrier to entry for a lot of people. So what they showed here was that in the next iteration of Swift Playgrounds, which I think I read that it should be available in the fall. So it's not available right now, but in the fall with Swift Playgrounds 4, you'll be able to build apps within Swift Playgrounds. And they do a demo of this. So just to do a quick run through, all of the learning content is still in the app, so you can still learn to code with that interactivity, which is what the app is known for. But you can also start a new Swift Playgrounds project. And then you get a code editor that looks like this on the left-hand side, and you get a little preview on the right. And the cool thing about this is that they also have code completion. So, you know, you're typing, I don't know if I can, yeah, so there's that nice code completion. You also have this library button here, where when you tap on that, it brings up a library where you can add a ton of components here. So you can add components, you can search for modifiers, you can search for SF symbols, and this basically looks like the one from Xcode, right? Now, no one has seen this app yet. I have to assume that, you know, this is not full-fledged Xcode on your iPad, but I think that over time, you know, they're probably going to add more and more capabilities to this. For right now, I think this is an amazing step to transition from using this app to learning and then actually being able to apply it. Okay, cool. Sorry, let me just adjust my volume. I just saw that chat message. Now, if it gets too loud, just let me know. Actually, I can adjust it from here. Okay, so if it gets too loud, if it is too loud, just give me a chat message, because right now I have this awesome second screen that I can see. It's actually just an old monitor I pulled out of my closet. Okay. So we're talking about this library panel here that you can drag and drop, and you can sort of build your app like this. You can also test your app. You can run your app from within Swift Playgrounds. So you can then test it out. And there's a little console section at the bottom where you can see the output if you're testing different things like that. And then finally, you can actually distribute this if you have an Apple developer account, which is that paid membership. You can ship your app to the App Store, and then you can log into the App Store Connect portal. So, sorry, I meant App Store Connect. So you can ship it to App Store Connect, you can log into your portal, and from there your build would be available to send to all your friends and family via test flight to try out your app. So again, this is really cool, and I have iPads, I have kids, so I definitely have iPads, but they're really old, and I think the older iPads are built like tanks, because my iPads, they are at least, I don't know, they're at least 8 years old and they're still going. I mean, they can barely run any apps anymore. But again, for the kids, the only thing they need to be run is Netflix and maybe YouTube for Kids. And kudos to those teams for making those apps be able to run on such old devices, because that's really not an easy thing to do. But yeah, I'm looking into getting a new iPad, even though this app isn't available right now. I mean, version 4 where you can build apps, because I really predict that by the time it releases in the fall where you can build apps, that it's going to bring a whole new audience of people, probably especially younger people, kids who've been learning coding on iPad, and then now they can actually build apps on an iPad, for all of those people that don't have Macs, I mean. So I want to get an iPad now. I want to start checking out this Swift Playgrounds app, at least the learning content side of it, and seeing if there's really a way for me to supplement that is there a way for me to make it easier for people to learn with Swift Playgrounds using the already existing learning content? And then by the time version 4 hits in the fall, I'll be in a great spot to transition that to, here's how you can build some cool apps using the Swift Playgrounds app. So this is not going to take over my, the main content that we do here using Xcode, but I think this is definitely something worth exploring. Okay, so that was Swift Playgrounds. Let me just... All right, just checking the chat. The next thing they were talking about is augmented reality. Okay, so here's an app that he was showing, and this is like a full screen testing of his app on Swift Playgrounds. That looks pretty cool. I don't know, how much of it is actually functional. Sort of remains to be seen how powerful of an app you can build on Swift Playgrounds. Really curious about that. Okay, next up they talked about Reality Kit. So I haven't worked very much with AR, but I'm always super impressed by the augmented reality apps that I see. So she's talking about one of the big barriers to working with augmented reality is creating those 3D models. Either you have to buy them or download them or create them yourself if you know how to create these 3D models. But in Reality Kit 2, they introduced something called object capture. And this is a process where you turn a series of 2D images into a 3D model. So what you do is, this is another app that they're showing. It's called the Clone app. I think this is the Clone app because they mentioned it a bunch of times, that it helps you capture a real life object and make sure that you get all the angles. So you basically, if you want to capture this croissant, for example, you use that app, and then you it's taking pictures as you're moving around that object, and it sort of makes sure you can get all the angles of it. And even underside, so you have a completely, you can look at it in any direction. So then you take these series of images and you go into your Mac, and in Swift, there's a couple of lines of code where you can turn those 2D images into a 3D model. So this is what they showed. I haven't actually done this myself, but what you can generate from the series of 2D images is a USDZ model, and this is a model that is optimized for AR Quick Look, so you can actually use this 3D model in Messages, Mail, Safari, and other apps. So to me, this is sort of like, I guess, a lighter weight 3D model that you can send for previews and you can use in a bunch of applications. But if you wanted to generate, maybe a heavier 3D model, you can also export or generate OBJ and USD asset bundles to be used in like real production workflows. So again, this is sort of stuff that's really I haven't touched before, so this is really all new to me. But the thought of being able to create your own 3D models easily really opens up the possibilities, right? Even for people who don't typically work in 3D like myself. Do any of you guys, have you guys played with AR, Augmented AR Kit, Augmented Reality, Reality Kit? Have you guys tried any of that? Let me know in the chat. Okay, and then the next section, they were talking about the Metal framework. And again, I don't do anything super graphics intensive. Yeah, so they were just showing this croissant that they captured. Okay, so Metal. This part I'm honestly a little hazy about in terms of what they talked about for Metal. I can give you a summary, but in terms of really intensive graphics work, that is really not my area of expertise, and there was a lot of jargon that I didn't really understand. But the gist of what I got from this section was that because of the new Apple M1 chip and the Metal framework and their Apple GPUs and unified memory, they've sort of melded all of that and created this harmonious working of all of these things to really improve graphics performance. See, I'm struggling to even put it in my own words. But they were talking about a lot of different graphics workflows like ray tracing and dynamic libraries and variable refresh rate displays and all of these things that are now improved, but I can't really tell you what it all means. So if you work in graphics, this section will probably be especially interesting to you. I'd recommend that you check it out. In terms of game development, they now support more controllers, like the latest Xbox and PS5 controllers. So more support for controllers. There's talking about how, their improved graphics performance can now better handle AAA console games on Mac platforms, Apple platforms, I mean. So that includes iOS and iPadOS and things like that. So they're talking about all of this graphics jargon that flew over my head. And then new graphics debugging tools in Xcode. So I'm just going to breeze over that because I don't know how to explain that. But if you work in graphics, again, highly recommend it that you check out this section. Okay, let's talk about focus. Focus was a huge part of WWDC. And sort of the whole idea here was that they want to make it easier for you to focus on your task. And sometimes your phone is just a distraction, right? And I don't know about you guys. Do you guys keep your phone beside you when you work? And do you leave it face up, or do you leave it face down? Or do you move it out of the room? Do you put it on Do Not Disturb? So for me, I find that if it's right there beside my desk, I tend to just check it all the time. When I get bored or maybe I have a break, I grab my phone, check what notifications do I have, and that sort of thing. If you move it out of the room, you're not going to go run and check it, right? And then when you go to sleep, is it at your bedside? Is it on your nightstand, or is it somewhere else, right? So they, I think it's really cool that Apple does this. It's trying to help you improve your life, because if you think about it from their perspective, they want you to be using their device all the time. They want you to, to just have it on your face, but they implement all these mechanisms to actually try to keep things in balance, right? Like the screen time stuff, that was new a couple of years ago, and before you didn't know how often you used your phone or for how long. All those little chunks, those little segments throughout your day really add up, right? So them giving you that sort of feedback is amazing. So you can then decide what to do. So again, I applaud Apple for that. So this new focus mechanism is for you to basically set a Do Not Disturb mode. It's like a mode, but you can customize it. So Do Not Disturb is blanket, right? Like no notifications get through. But with focus, you can create your own modes that maybe you only want to let certain apps through. So you create like a work mode. So maybe only your coworkers can get through. Maybe only certain apps can get through and notify you, whereas all the other apps, their notifications get blocked. So again, you can create custom focuses, they call it, which is really cool. A big focus for them was notifications, because you get a ton of notifications through the day and there's no priority. You can't tell which one's really important, which one's not so important. They just all show up in the same way. So as a developer now, when you are sending notifications from your app, you have the ability to specify 4 different levels. Yeah, 4 different levels of urgency. So passive means like your notification isn't really time sensitive. It's not that important. The user will see it when they see it. So you set it as passive. Don't wake the device. It's not time sensitive. When they said that, you know what? The first thing I thought about is, as an app developer, wouldn't I want my app notifications always to be, because I'm trying to get the user's attention, right? So wouldn't I always put it as the highest urgency, like critical or something like that? They didn't talk about how your app would be punished. I don't think it would be, because what they're implying is that on the device there's some sort of intelligence, right? So if you keep marking your notifications as like critical when it shouldn't be, and they sense that the user over time, you know, it's alerting the user, but the user is not checking it, that intelligence is just gonna like downgrade your app automatically. There's some sort of intelligence on the device that that sort of tunes that. Okay, so passive, we talked about that. Active is basically your normal notification. It plays a sound, it plays a haptic. If the user's phone is, you know, not on do not disturb, normal notification. This is the one that all notifications are right now. And then there's a more urgent one. So if something is time sensitive, I guess, you know, live stream is starting, or like time is about to run out on something, or whatever it is. So this visually stands out more. It stays on the screen longer. And if the user is wearing AirPods, Siri will actually announce it to them. So I don't know how I feel about that. If the notification actually is time sensitive and it was relevant, I would be like, oh, that's cool, thank you. But if it was, you know, not actually time sensitive, I would kind of be annoyed if I was listening to something or audiobook or music and Siri suddenly just interrupts and gives me like a promotional message or something like that. So I don't know about that. Maybe we'll see. And again, I think the intelligence would automatically downgrade your app if you're sending time-sensitive notifications that aren't actually time-sensitive. And then critical is reserved for like serious health and safety concerns. In Ontario here, where we live, we get these things called Amber Alerts that the police sends out to all of our cellular devices when, you know, kids are abducted, and everyone should be on the lookout. And these sort of just play a loud sound and they come on regardless of what's happening on your phone. So that's sort of what this is. And it plays a sound even if your device is muted. This requires a separate entitlement, which you need to get approval for. So I'm not sure, when they said get approval, I'm not sure if they said approval from Apple or approval from the user. So if anyone knows that, please comment it in the chat. Okay, and then notification summary. This is where they batch up all of your notifications into and deliver it at one time. So it's like almost like an email digest of the, it's a summary essentially. It bundles all your notifications, delivers it at once. Now that summary actually has it features 2 notifications very prominently. Let me show you what that looks like. So it looks like this. So that's what a bundle looks like. And I think the user gets to choose what time these things get delivered. But you can see there's 2 notifications at the very top that are front and center, and then the rest of them are just bundled down here. Now, you as a developer, to increase your chances of being selected, because this is just handled by the AI or intelligence, and they're only going to feature notifications which have a thumbnail. So so that notifications with thumbnails are considered for featuring, and it's based a little bit on, from what I read or from what I heard, it's based a little bit on what the user uses, but at the same time it also selects a variety. So it's not going to have like 2 Yelp ones or 2 ESPN ones. in the bundle, there may contain multiple notifications from your app. So how do they order it, right? Well, now when you send a notification, you can assign a relevancy score to your notification. And based on that score, it's going to order your notifications. So if maybe you send multiple notifications throughout the day, maybe you would assign the latest ones a higher score, so they would be kind of ordered in that same time sequence. So that I have to do some testing on, but that's what that is. So we talked about this. Do not disturb silences all notifications, and then you can set your own custom focus where people can still get through this. And also, I don't know if you guys caught in WWDC that different apps now, especially the Apple ones, will tell other people that you are on Do Not Disturb. So if someone's trying to message you through the Messages app, they're going to see that you have a status of Do Not Disturb, and then you can choose whether or not to still send it. And that actually happens on Slack. If any of you guys use Slack, if someone has Do Not Disturb, it still gives you an option to send. So the app that you build, you'll be able to get the user's current focus as well. So you can sort of display that if your app is a communication app. And that actually brings me back to one point. So if your app deals with communication from people, so if it's like an email or a messaging app or something like that, you should mark your notifications as communication between people, because Apple treats those notifications differently. So let me see if I can give you guys a visual for that. So just talking about, so that's what this looks like. So your notification will actually show that person's avatar or Memoji and your app icon here. And I actually don't know how they're going to get the user profile from people. Maybe they have to be on your contact list for you to see something like that. But you have to tell Apple that your communication is from people, rather than just your app trying to tell your users something. Okay, let me just turn down the music a little bit, guys, since I hear some of you guys saying that. Okay, hopefully, is this better? Hopefully this is better. Okay, cool. So screen time. We talked about screen time a little earlier, and that's, keeping track of which apps you use and for how long you stare at your screen, how long you use each app for, and parental controls, which exist now. And my kids aren't old enough that where I have to implement parental controls, because I can just take away their iPads. That is my parental control. But they have now exposed the Screen Time API, so you can be building your own parental control apps. For example, maybe an app that encourages homework or something like that, and it locks your iPad at certain times. But basically, there's an API now where you can do those sorts of things. So it is in 3 different parts. Let me just scroll to the relevant slide here. He's talking about the Screen Time API. All right, so there's the homework app. Okay, I can't really find a relevant slide here, so we'll leave it here. Okay, so first let's talk about manage settings. This restricts what your child can do across all their devices. And you can set a number of restrictions. That could be like app-based, or it could be time-based. Family controls is where it's for the parent to select which apps. So this is the family control screen where you select, what you want to allow your kid to access and what you want to prevent. Now, the important thing is that because they want to encourage privacy, they don't want your app to be able to see what the parent is choosing. So for example, if I'm the parent here and I'm choosing what apps I want them to be able to access or not access, your app is not going to know these names. It's going to be tokenized. So it's going to turn it into like a random string of letters and numbers. And you're just going to have to work with that token. You can still, pass that token around to do things such as restrict access to that app or enable access to that app, but you won't know what that app is, or you won't know what that activity is. They call these things activities because it doesn't have to be an app. It could be, visiting certain websites and things like that. The last part of this parental controls or screen time API is device activity. So this is a new API where your app can register windows of time where certain things are allowed or not allowed. So you kind of have control to lock down the device through this API. I'm sure the kids are not happy about this. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of parental control type of apps appear on the App Store, because this is new that we can do all of this on a device. I'm not happy. Yeah. Yeah, Zach, talking about the notifications, it wouldn't pass review, I think. But the reviewers might not catch it, to be honest. It's so hard what that review team has to do, and I really don't know how they can make sure that your app is clean and not fraudulent. And that's why so many fraudulent apps still get through. So I'm just gonna move my mic closer. Maybe that'll actually help away from my speakers. Okay, we're getting to the end here. I'm actually really excited about SharePlay. I'll tell you why in a second. Okay, so we talked about widgets. Right now you can create widgets. I've actually never created one. Have any of you looked into creating widgets or have created widgets yourself for your own apps? Let's turn this down a little bit. So now what's new is that there is a larger widget size because of iPad, because they brought widgets to iPad. So there is a giant one, this jumbo one here. So they're just talking about that and how you can create supersized widgets now. The other thing, they talked about this, intents. So, widgets are based on someone putting your app's widget on their screen, right? So if they never do that, then your app never gets the chance to really show up as one. So it's very user driven, right? Like they have to add your widget to the screen. But they're saying now that they have certain things called Widget Stacks. And if you have an iPhone, you might have seen this, where it's like a single widget, but you can swipe up and down through it to display like different views in that single widget. So in here, they're saying that depending on what patterns they notice about the user, that intelligence on the device may suggest your app to display something. Now your app has to give some information for it to actually display in that widget. So they call this the Intents API. So it allows your app to suggest information. So in here in this article, they're suggesting that your Smoothie app sends this intent to order this at this time, maybe because it notices that the user does this, or maybe there's like a special sale or something like that about that. And then the OS will determine if they want to take that information and recommend it and show it in that widget stack. So there's a chance for your app to display some information in that widget stack, even though your app's widget is not actually there. So that's pretty cool. And then we get to the last announcement, which is SharePlay. So they started off WWDC talking about SharePlay and Facetime. And this is, if you missed that, this is essentially where you can get on, a group FaceTime, and you can all together watch like a movie or listen to a song all in sync. And us developers, we can sort of take advantage of that. Sorry, I don't mean take advantage of it, but I mean use it. So doing, syncing media between people, the code that they showed, it's pretty simple to do, but it's not limited to just syncing media across multiple people. One thing I want to mention is that the cool thing is, like, let's say you're watching a movie and you want to share play it with your group. What happens is when those people join your group activity to watch that movie, their movie plays in sync, but it's not you're not streaming your movie to them. Like, they're actually watching, like, their device is doing the heavy lifting. There is just a sync in terms of, the timestamp or whatever it is to keep it in sync. But it's not like right now, this stream, right? It's my computer sending the data, which is then coming to all of you guys. Whereas the way that they describe it here is that, their own devices are playing the movies. There's just a layer keeping things in sync. So that is like syncing media playback, but there's also a way to use Apple's servers as a host so that you can do other group activities. So what they show here is they show a bunch of people getting together. They show some code on how to do the media sync, and it seems relatively not too complicated. But in here they're showing an app where multiple people are drawing on the screen. And what's happening here is that, when you're writing your handwriting, it's not like you're sending your data to their screen and then, they're seeing what you're seeing. It's not like a screen share type of thing. It's that their device is actually receiving data about what you did, and it's actually rendering that itself. Like, its device is drawing that out itself. So there's a difference there because you're not just like sharing your screen. And the thing that I find really exciting about this is because it sort of relates to an app idea that I've had for a little while. And if you go back to some of the very first live streams I did, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago, I wanted to do like a social Pomodoro app. And now that I'm doing sort of live stream study with me's, that idea sort of popped up in my head again. But I thought it'd be so cool for all of us to be able to join like a Pomodoro room. If you guys are not familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's just a technique to do like a block of work and then like a little bit rest and another block of work, and sort of keeps you motivated, and it keeps things in small chunks for you to do. So I know apps exist out there already where you can sort of do group Pomodoros, but I wanted to incorporate some gamification into it and stuff like that. So seeing this group activities framework makes me think that maybe I can use it for that app idea. Maybe. So that is the end of their presentation. I would encourage you to check it out. I'll also be sharing my notes. I'll post it as a blog post on my website, and I'll just send out the link through social media if you guys are interested in that. But aside from that, there are a ton of Wwdc sessions, which I haven't even started watching yet because yesterday I didn't have any time to do that. But did you guys bookmark any sessions? Are you guys going to watch any of these? They're actually not bad because I thought most of them would be like an hour long, but some of them, like this one, 16 minutes. Hi, Ed. So I know some other creators have been streaming recently too. So I know Paul Hudson did one on what's new in Swift. So definitely go and check that out. I don't know if Sean Allen did a stream. I think he did as well. So it's so awesome that yeah, hey Ed, if you go into my channel, youtube.com/CodeWithChris, you'll find my beginner playlist. Yeah, it's at the very top. So what do you guys think, just in general, about what they announced at WWDC? I know a lot of people were expecting hardware announcements. A lot of you expressed disappointment on that first day on Monday. But aside from that, you know, in terms of what they announced, does anything in particular excite you guys? Any APIs that you're thinking about using yourself? And sort of where are you in your iOS journey? Are you just starting out? Or are you in a great position to take advantage of, you know, some of these things? Because I know a lot of these topics that we've covered here are not exactly beginner friendly, but I think it's still a very exciting time because there's, you know, continuing to improve Swift UI, and this is so much easier to pick up than UI Kit was for beginners. I've heard that time and time again. In fact, we licensed our foundations course into a classroom, and they used that Swift UI curriculum for their semester. And at the end of the semester, I got a chance to appear, you know, through Zoom to their classroom and do sort of like a meet and greet and Q&A. And, you know, I got some feedback from them and listening to how it was like for them going through that Swift UI course. And a lot of people found it was a lot easier to learn. You're not wrestling with IB outlets, storyboards, and stuff like that. So I think Swift UI was such a great step, especially from my perspective, coming as an educator, and with Swift Playgrounds, right, building apps more accessible to everyone and lowering the barrier of entry. That's only a good thing, right? Because you know, maybe it's hard to justify investing in a Mac up front if you don't even know if this is something that you're going to pursue, that you like or not. But Swift Playgrounds, if you have an iPad already, right, you can just test things out, and then when you decide to get more serious into it, if you can't, you know, if the Swift Playgrounds app is sort of lacking, then you can be more confident in investing in maybe an older Mac or a refurbished Mac. In fact, this Mac that I bought, this is a mid 2015 iMac, the Retina 5K one, and I bought it refurbished, and it's been like amazing all this time, no problems. So I usually look at the refurbished stuff first, but now that I'm looking at these new Macs that came out, and now that my computer is straining more because I'm starting to stream, maybe I will invest in a new Mac. It's a lot of money though, because we're talking about iPads. I haven't gotten a new iPhone for a long time though. My iPhones usually last me about 4 years, and this Mac has been about 4 to 5 years. Yeah, Zach, did you sign up for the Xcode Cloud beta waitlist? I wonder how many people they're going to allow into that. My guess is that they're going to allow, you know, larger companies in first, because they're probably going to be able to stress test it the most and give Apple feedback For single developers, I don't know if it'll get to us. But I did register for the waitlist with our CodeWithChris company account, so maybe they will accept us, thinking that we have tons and tons of developers, whereas we don't. Lordison, you got confused with staying in JavaScript, React Native course, or jump back to Swift. Really liked for native. I think at the beginning it's really important to sort of stick with something, at least get deep into it enough so that you have a grasp of it before jumping around, because you're not going to make any progress. You're essentially going back to square one when you jump onto a different thing, right? So my advice to you, if you don't have exterior motive driving you, maybe you have to learn it for a course in school, or maybe your employer is asking you to learn that. If you don't have a motive like that, then I would definitely go with what you're interested in, because that interest and that passion flows through, and you're going to find that you're going to spend your evenings and free time learning about this stuff and digging into it. It's just going to be a lot easier. If it's something that you don't really want to do, but you feel like you should do, like maybe working out, staying fit, eating healthy, those are usually the things that people know they should be doing, but it's hard to do. And it's not until you make a lifestyle change that it really happens. I haven't made that lifestyle change yet. Oh, is that cool? You had a corporate account too for your work, I assume? Or maybe you have your own business? Oh, Mark, you're using a 2015 as well? Cool. Yeah, it's amazing how well these machines hold up. I remember when I was using a PC, for some reason they'd get really slow really fast. But these Macs are pretty good. Ah, that is just your beta machine? Nice, nice. I have another machine too. So this is my, at the same time I bought this 5K Retina iMac, I also bought a MacBook Pro. My intention was to leave this, because at that time I had a separate office. I rented a little office, and I was going to leave this iMac there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave work at work. When I come home, I have my laptop for non-work purposes. But didn't really turn out that way. But now my MacBook is being used by my 4-year-old daughter because of online schooling. So she's basically beaten the crap out of that MacBook, and because she's got the speakers on full blast, all day for the classroom. She has, greasy fingers from eating snacks on the keyboard, and she took crayon to my screen. I see crayon marks on my laptop screen. So now the left speaker is blown out. So anyways, it's an old laptop anyways, and education comes first, right? Bhargav, are you referring to me? I haven't installed any of the betas yet. Yeah, it's just been a busy couple of days, so I haven't done that. Oh, is that cool? Cool. That's awesome. So hopefully, good luck with the waitlist. Maybe you'll get into the Xcode beta. If you do, please let us know. Let us know how it is. Did you always start off as, did you transition from sort of like a full-time corporate job into becoming an independent contractor? Did you make that shift, or did you start out just doing contract work? This is why you can't have nice things, Mark. Yeah. I remember when we were just having kids, we wanted this really nice white couch from Pottery Barn. Was it called PB Comfort? I forget what it was called. But, you know, like Pottery Barn furniture isn't cheap. And luckily we had the foresight to not do that, and instead just buy cheaper things that we knew would just get ruined and we wouldn't get heartbroken over. And so that has been like a super smart decision. So there's no way we're keeping a white couch free from kids' fingers and stuff like that. Wow, Zach, super impressive. Third generation computer engineer. So you must have grown up, like, what was your childhood like? Were you exposed to engineering and circuitry, stuff like that? I don't know what computer engineering. Yeah, you must have been exposed to that stuff when you were really young. And that's one thing I'm thinking about for my kids. My kids are 4 and 6, and they're learning. Actually, the older kid, 6 years old, she's learning Scratch now in school. It's pretty cool. So they're like dragging these little jigsaw blocks to make sequences, right? So they're recording their own audio into the program, and each audio byte is like a little jigsaw block, and then they can visually and then she's also drawing images as well, and they're basically assembling stories using these little jigsaw audio blocks with the images that she's drawn on the screen. And then she has to program the transitions and when the audio plays, and she can like repeat certain audio clips. And it was really funny for her to when I was watching her, seeing her accidentally put an audio clip on repeat, and when she played it, it just like kept repeating, and she started freaking out. She's like, what's going on? So that was really cool to see. But yeah, I didn't know that they started so early now. Yeah, Zach, the wallpapers are nice. Wow, super impressive, guys. Yeah, I only started programming, or I only realized that was something that you could do in grade 10 for me. In grade 10, and I sort of just fell in love with it right away. And we learned this language called Turing. It was invented by someone in the University of Toronto. Bhargav, awesome. Yeah, it's sort of a really cool feeling for me because I was exposed to programming in school, and that's how I went down this path. And then seeing teachers saying that they're using some of my YouTube stuff to supplement their lessons, or some classrooms are using our courses in their classrooms, really sort of brings it full circle for me. And it's like this really great feeling. It sort of completes things and really drives me forward for this. I'm so lucky, to be honest. I'm really, really grateful that I can do this as my full-time job. Yeah. So, I mean, one downside to this, though, I'll tell you guys right now, is that because I've been doing this since 2013, and in 2013, when I left my corporate job and started doing this, I really knew my stuff, right? Because I was working on this 8 hours a day. And then over time, because I just wasn't, like, I was more focused on building Code with Chris as a brand and as a business than I was coding and developing my coding skills, that balance sort of shifted, right? So on one hand, where I was able to make this my full-time gig, but on the other hand, my coding skills started going down because I wasn't using them as much as I used to. So now, and it was really hard because as the business grew, there was just more to do, right? And I love learning about things. I love learning about, marketing and business development and all those things. And those are all skills and areas which have their own degrees and programs, right? So you get a sense of how deep it goes. And when you're starting your own thing, you're the only person. So I was going down these rabbit holes, learning a lot, and I was having a lot of fun, but it just wasn't, coding. So now, after so many years, we've gotten to a point where luckily we do have more people helping with Code with Chris now. So I can be more removed from doing every single thing, and I can be streaming with you guys and interacting with you guys here. And that's amazing to me, right? And, I have this renewed interest in wanting to learn and study and code. And that's why I want to do these study sessions on stream. They keep myself accountable as well as I know for other people, it's motivation, right? To get together and do something social and code together. Because sometimes it's just lonely at night wanting to, go and code by yourself. If it's not something like you super really want to do. So I have this renewed interest in wanting to learn and upgrade my skills. But another thing is that something that I've never done is build my own apps to try to gain traction and build a big user base and to monetize them. Because in my full-time job, we built apps for clients. So we were a consulting company. And these clients were usually, big media companies, broadcasting companies that just wanted an app to, as a different distribution channel for their content. So they didn't really care, if it made money or not. To them, it was just another distribution channel. And plus, we were always only in charge of the development of it. We weren't in charge of the, marketing side or anything like that, or user acquisition side or growth or anything like that. So, and because I was coding so much, and we would have to, sometimes pull like really late hours, especially close to crunch time, the deadline. We would be going in the morning, staying till, like 10, sometimes like I've left in the AMs, and then I'd have to show up the next day to, at 9 a.m. again. And you can only do that for so long. That was one of the reasons I sort of burnt out. But anyways, because it was so tough, I really wasn't interested in coding for myself and building my own apps and exploring that. And then when Code with Chris started, in the back of my head, I was sort of like, oh, I need to have my own apps because I need credibility and authority, and who would want to learn from someone who didn't have their own apps? And that's what sort of the mindset I was in, right? But again, I was so busy with just building the business that I wasn't building my own apps. And so now I've gotten to a point where I do want to build my own apps, and I do want to explore this art of growth and user acquisition, because I think it's not that easy anymore, right? The App Store is so crowded. A lot of the apps are dominated by bigger companies, indie developers. I mean, they still have opportunities, but I think you have to be pretty smart about it. There's definitely a business and marketing side to app, like building your own successful apps now. You can't just no coding and that's it. Sorry, I went off on a big tangent. Do any of you guys have your own apps in the App Store? I mean, you guys probably have. If you do, you have more experience than me about user acquisition and how to get users. Zach, it sounds like you could probably explain this part better than I can. When we were talking about the unified metal graphics platform. Because all of this during the platform State of Union was sort of gibberish to me. I'm like, I don't know. if you do like graphics rendering and you do, game development, I'm sure this is all, very interesting news to you. Awesome. You got to show us some of the, do you have a link to anything you want to show us, Zach? Bhargav, that's a great question. That's a great question. Number one is that the app, because when it was developed and we published it in the App Store, we were featuring our UI kit content. So we had a 30-day beginner series on YouTube. And, at that time we were busy with something or another, and we were just like, okay, we're going to update it with the Swift. Oh, we were busy developing Swift UI content. Yeah, we're busy developing this stuff. Let me bring this on screen. We were busy developing this new series, transitioning from UI Kit to Swift UI. And so we didn't want to promote that because everyone would be, digging into the UI Kit stuff. Whereas now we're like trying to transition to Swift UI. So we were going to update that app with the Swift UI content instead, and then do the big announcement and the big push. But then now we're at this point where we are rebuilding a CWC app that is multi-platform, that can connect to our learning platform, so people can download videos offline for offline viewing and stuff like that. So that should maybe in the next 3 months or so that we're trying to release that, and that will sort of replace that app that you see in the App Store. It's a great question. Thank you, Sergio. Appreciate it. Yeah, like aside from my material, there's tons of content creators nowadays that are also sharing their knowledge and helping people out, and that's so awesome to see. Check out the subreddits for Swift programming and Swift UI. A lot of content creators are posting their stuff there. Flo, yes. If Flo is here, Flo is also teaching, and he's an active member of our community, and definitely check out his content. He teaches at boot camps, live boot camps, so his experience is really battle tested. So definitely check out his content right here. Let's see what else. So Sean Allen, I think, goes without saying. You guys probably have all seen him. Let's see. He didn't do a live stream, but Design Code, Mengto and his team. Really cool. And speaking of design, actually, before we get to that, I think Mengto is a great resource for learning design, especially as a developer. If you need to just know, enough to make your app look good, you don't need to become a full-fledged designer. He has a lot of great content on doing that, and just from like watching his workflow. But yeah, in terms of design, we actually hired a designer on our team recently, so I'm really excited to work with him. He's actually the one that's going to be teaching a large chunk of our, and here I'm going to do a sort of a shout out, or what do you call it? Not a shout out, a plug to my own program. But we have a design course that we're working on here, and he's going to be teaching a large part of it. So I'm going to be teaching the implementation part of it. He's going to be teaching the actual like design in Figma part of it. And so then we're going to meld our two parts together. That should be pretty cool. And then in the future, he's going to work with me on content for the YouTube channel and content for our demos. So hopefully all of my demos and apps are going to look much better when you guys go to build it. Yeah, App Masters, Steve. Steve is great. I'm going to be learning a lot from Steve, especially for the app marketing, user acquisition side. The problem, I'm a little bit intimidated because he has so much content, like a lot of content, and his main channel isn't on YouTube, right? His main thing is on podcast, and he has hundreds of podcast episodes, so it's impossible to go through all of them. But yeah, definitely a great guy, sharing a lot of what he knows. The thing with the App Store is that it's so dynamic. Things are changing all the time. So now that I think of it, what used to work may not be working now. So he actually has a agency that helps people market apps. And actually that's where the knowledge really comes from. Those little tweaks and little hacks. It's battle tested, right? Because he does it for clients so that he can share it. And it's really cool that he does share it, because I mean, in a way, if you expose your techniques that you use for working with clients, it becomes more widely used, then that might not work anymore. Apple might patch it up, because before, I know there was a technique that he told me where I think you could, you only have so much space to put keywords and your titles and stuff like that. But he found out with his clients that you can use like the titles and keyword fields for a couple of other countries, and you can specify, English words there, and they sort of apply to the App Store ranking as well. So you're sort of getting, it's like a cheat code. You're getting advantage over other people who are only using the English fields for keywords and descriptions, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's all these little like tweaks and these little hacks that you only notice from actually doing it, right? And he has that through his agency. Hey TS, thanks for joining. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it a day for the stream, but I will be back streaming again tomorrow at 10:30. I haven't thought about what we're going to do yet. If I don't have a topic, then I'm probably just going to turn off the mic, and I'm just going to do some coding. I might not show my screen. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But come join anyways through the chat. We'll code together. Take that time as a meeting time in your calendar for you to do some learning and studying and coding. To be honest, I will probably spend that time watching Wwdc Sessions. And that's going to give me, it's about time I catch up, because I'm already a day late, and there are so many sessions that I bookmarked, and every day they're coming out with like a ton of new sessions, right? So I have in my bookmarks, I'll just show you guys some of the stuff that I'm interested in. These are not out yet. Oh, this one's not out yet. The design awards. This is always really interesting to see. So there's the async await stuff that we went through, the practicing inclusive design. I have a huge interest in, how to design really cool apps, really beautiful apps that have great user experiences. So obviously a lot of the what's new in Swift UI, what's new in Swift, Mac Catalyst. In-app purchases, a lot of the debugging stuff I want to get better at, detecting and diagnosing memory issues. I remember working in Objective-C back in the day. Used to be not really fun trying to figure out. But you know what? Having to manage your own memory actually gave me a really good understanding of how things work under the hood. So now, with Swift and Swift UI and stuff, that's just a little bit abstracted, right? And if you're just coming into learning, you probably don't know what's happening under the hood, things like reference counting and all of that stuff. So it might, when you're trying to debug a memory leak, it might be harder for you because those things haven't been exposed to you. group activities. This is a cool one. Yeah. See, I imagine building this like group Pomodoro thing where we can actually use it together here on these streams. So we can sort of set a timer and have a timer on the screen. And then when the work timer is on, we're all coding or doing our own thing and studying and learning. And when we take a break, we'll do some fun things. We'll do some fun games. With this Streamlabs software, there's actually like commands and little games you can play and little points you can earn. So I'm just exploring that and getting used to that. All right. Let's check the chat. Bargav, Shazam Kit, I have no idea how to use, but I think I saw a session on that, right? Like this one. You should definitely bookmark that. Watch it tomorrow. Come on the stream. You can watch that while I watch something else, and you can let us know how easy or hard it is to use. This one right here. Unfortunately, I don't have any experience with it. I can't really teach you about it. Yeah. Okay, in any case, thank you guys all for joining. I feel a lot more comfortable on stream now, and it's only been like 3 days. So hopefully I'll continue to stream, because I love interacting with you guys. It's amazing to chat with you guys and really see a different side. I can see, why people do this. It's a lot of fun. All right, see you guys later. Have a nice day too.